Yeah, you usually have three, one guy inside and two out. Stupid.
Have we heard from anybody else, Pam?
No, the only one John Cooney. I'm just having us go live on YouTube, so 1 second.
Did you hear from John is not going to be available?
I haven't heard from John.
Oh, you haven't?
So
okay.
I'm expecting him. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I saw your cousin David last week. He stopped by. George.
My what?
Your cousin Dave LaPointe.
Oh, Jesus. He's not running for office someplace?
Yeah, he's got to have surgery again on his heart.
Oh, brother.
He's got a split in his aorta.
Oh, that's
We're
good.
live, just so whenever you're ready to get started, I wanted to make sure.
Okay, so we're still missing Jerry and John?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Jerry's here.
Oh, Jerry is. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, Jerry.
Hi, George. Just listen to your conversation in anticipation of what I look forward to in the future.
Yeah, it's crazy. Gee, we've heard stories, conversations changing, and boy, I'll tell you, they are. Anyways,
Well, that's not my conversation as of yet.
No, good for you. No, well, you just appreciate your good days for sure. There's no question. All right, well, let's
John is
open.
here now too, just FYI.
John
Cooney.
came on? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, Craig I talked with him today, just came out of Yukon again today he was just in there for a visit. And so he's not going to be available, but he has indicated he was going to help us with the POCD if we work through this tonight as we talk about it. So we'll open the meeting October 26th. And Pam, you've got a list of everybody. The only one missing here was Craig. We've been seating both John and Will. Not a big meeting tonight. Let me seat John for this if we could.
Sure.
And do we have anybody that's signed up for public comment?
I have some folks here, but I have a feeling that they might be here for a special permit, but everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. I'm just giving you a prompt in case you're so inclined. You have a few people like my phone, and I'm just making sure that they know how to unmute themselves if they wanted to speak.
Okay, so do we have any input from the public?
It does not appear so.
Okay, fine. Agenda review, anybody?
What sort of comments are you looking for?
No, anything that's unrelated to anything on the agenda, if you have some comments.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda review, commissioners have anything?
No, looks good.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings tonight. I don't have anything listed for old business. Under new business, under number 6, PZC number 20-27, special permit, location 149 Newfield Road, applicant owner, East Coast Assistant Dogs, ECAD. Proposal construction of 7,118 plus or minus square feet of building for dog kennel and indoor exercise run and office space. This is a new application we're accepting tonight. So we'd like to, I'll make a motion to accept the application, and I'd like to, with the approval of the commission, set a special permit hearing for November 9th meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a second from Art. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Just
I'm
relative
sorry,
to
go
this,
ahead.
just relative to this application, the Architectural Review Committee will be reviewing this application at a special meeting on Thursday, November 5th via Zoom, same platform at
Okay.
5:30. The login information will be on the agenda. If anyone is interested in attending the Architectural Review Committee, that's usually the meeting at which they get into the finer points of the design of the building. And any signage that may be associated. I'm just letting anyone know that if you want to attend, feel free to attend that meeting too. And then I believe the commission is ready to vote on a public hearing November 9th. Same thing via Zoom.
Just quick question about the agenda for that architectural meeting. Is that going to come out? How many days? Is that going to come out? That's on that information will be on the agenda for that meeting or for the?
Yes. Yep.
So there will be an agenda issued a few days before.
Yeah, there's a login, just open
Okay.
your Zoom app, punch in the meeting ID, punch in the passcode, and then you can get on.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, any questions with regards to that? If you need to call, just call Pam. She sets these things up and it's worked pretty smoothly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
question for Pam. We have not received anything from fire marshal or building official review of the plans yet, correct?
No, they just came in on Thursday. I don't remember what day. They've
Is
been
it-
sent out.
Is it possible we'll have those for the public hearing?
Yes, you should.
Okay, I just want to make sure we do. I know the building official is out, and there is someone in taking his place.
When Mark weighs in, it's usually only with his zoning hat on.
Okay,
Because he doesn't get the full building drawings as part of that,
Mhm.
all you really get are the elevation drawings. So when
Yes.
Mark weighs in and his comments, it'll be zoning,
okay,
Yeah, well, that's what we're interested in.
that's what we're interested in.
Yeah, right.
Are they gonna do anything about the driveway? Like, are they gonna,
If you want to give me a call tomorrow, I plan to have the plans uploaded to the website, and I'll make sure that you can see everything. But we don't, the commission doesn't really want to take any kind of testimony prior to the public hearing.
okay,
But that's, Pam is accessible and she'll be posting. She's done a good job with getting the information out on the website. And then if you have questions, you be prepared for our public hearing session, and we'll be able to entertain whatever comments and contributions you make to the meeting. So be very happy to see that participation.
okay.
Can I ask one question about a prior meeting we've had over this? I know you guys had some concerns with a CO on the existing building and some issues that needed to be taken care of. Have those been resolved before we even consider a new addition?
No, you want to save, well, George, if you want to, you really want to limit your conversation about this outside of the scope of the public hearing.
Okay.
But feel free to call me at the office tomorrow, and as staff, I can talk to you about what's going on.
Well, yeah, especially about, this is something, information with regards to a previous approval. So if anybody in the community that has an interest in the status of what the previous approval was, it's not subject to this, new application. So that good inquiry could be to you, Pam, and get the explanation of where it stands and if anything, in fact, has come out.
Yep.
So, okay. All right.
And what's the
So-
phone number for Pam?
860-738-6593.
Thank you.
Okay, from the commissioners, any further comments or questions with regards to the motion and the second? All in favor of setting the special public hearing for the special permit for November 9th? All in favor, please raise your hand.
Got it, unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And look forward to hearing that presentation. Okay, number 7 is the approval of minutes of September 28th. Do we have a motion in regards to the approval of that?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, Art second. Let's see what we had here. Who
Willard?
was not there at that meeting, Pam?
Do we
Looking
know?
at my-
Jerry,
I think this is.
Jerry and Craig.
Gary.
up there.
Gary and Craig.
Okay, all right. All right, so all in favor of that September 28th? Okay,
Jerry, are you abstaining?
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Okay, thank you.
okay. All right. Communications, Pam?
I do not have any communications. No.
Staff report?
I don't know if you'll recall, I had told you about a woman who ran a chicken and pie. That's what her restaurant's called, Chicken and Pies, in Florida. And she had originally been interested in the Primo building.
Yes.
She's phoned and she has an option. I can't remember if she's got a signed contract, but with the Wendy's building.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, all right. Interesting.
And then the other restaurant that's going in next to Richard's Jewelers, Fred Richards Jewelry. That's just a zoning permit, but she's moving ahead. She's moving
Okay.
along.
All right. There's a lot of progress on Hartford Hospital. I see some pavement in there now, and they're really going to town. And I see the building was being demolished
Yeah,
along the main street. So we'll
Yeah.
probably have, what, about 12 car parking in there? Small ones.
Smart cars.
So, yeah, smart cars, yeah.
Mini bikes.
Mini bikes, right? So that's all you have, Pam?
I do, yeah.
Do we have any, can you look at the status on the earth excavation, the mining permits, just to check on the status? I think we passed it to be a 2-year renewal. Gordy Pepper has passed away, so I don't know, what's going on with that. It's not our situation, but so you've got a few that are there. Maybe you could just take a look at them, just brush the files and see how we stand on those so they don't get lost in the shuffle.
Isn't the
Okay.
excavation ones coming up too, George?
The which?
The excavation ones, like
Yeah.
Petro down on 8 and them.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I mentioned to Pam. The Berlinski folks had come in and got a small subdivision, industrial park subdivision. And I think the Fracasso purchased it. And I just wanted to make sure there were some stipulations with regards to the development process and soil erosion control. So I don't know where that is. Pam was going to check on that. I don't think you probably had a chance to, Pam, but
Almost today. I was headed out almost.
almost. Okay.
Almost.
Well,
I-
almost only counts on hand grenades and horseshoes.
Yeah, right. Okay, under 10, other business, the 2021 meeting schedule. I went through, Pam, you've got Flag Day on June 14th. Is that anything that's celebrated in any
That's
big manner?
also Donald Trump's birthday, so
Oh, it is, no.
June 12th, not 14th.
The 12th? Okay,
Yeah, the 14th.
14th?
Okay,
Okay.
right.
But is that a holiday at the town
No.
hall? No, all
I
right.
can't tell if you're teasing, George.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know. I just looked at it because we've had a couple of these Monday holidays that would have pushed us into, but you've got Columbus Day, which is the 11th. So I'd like to see us move our meeting to the 12th on
Right.
Tuesday. Since you're gonna, usually you have town hall closed on that day anyways.
Yeah.
So is that acceptable to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got sewer and water on that meeting date, but, this takes priority in my participation. But the rest of the dates I went through and it looked like everything looked good, Pam. So I'd make a motion to accept the proposed 2021 meeting schedule, subject to October 11th being moved to Columbus, the October 12th.
I'll second it.
Art seconded. Any other discussion with regards to the calendar? All in favor? Okay.
Unanimous.
Okay, POCD. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity. I sent something out this afternoon with regards to the POCD. I'd like to
Got
see
through
this.
about half of it.
Okay. The first thing I did was list the maps that I went through. And in addition to that, I've got a second little section on the first page that talked about letters that we sent out previously. I've got all that on my Word documents in my computer because I chaired the POCD subcommittee back then. And what we need to do is send everybody on here, and that's part of the meeting tonight, is if we have anybody else in addition to what I've listed on this list, which was the chairman of sewer and water, Winchester Fire Chief, Winchester Center Fire Chief, chairman of Recreation Commission, chairman of Economic Development, chairman of Inland Wetlands, chief of police, director of public works, superintendent of schools, and chairman of Conservation Commission for Natural Resources Inventory. We have any other that you can think of that we would want to get some feedback from?
Has Mark gone through it at all or had a chance to?
No, but that would be an internal review. So I think that, our fire marshal and Mark, I mean, I don't think we need to send them a letter. I think just a notification that it's in the works. But if you think we need to do it with a formal letter, then let's do it. I did include a copy of what I had sent to Jim DeVita, just so you saw the format of what it was. And is that something you could do, Pam? If I sent this over in Word, we could just change and put the department heads, commissioners, and so forth on there. And if we could send that thing out, is that something you could handle, or do you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
you could. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we should send them, Public Works, Jimmy and Mark and Steve, all a letter.
Okay.
And reminding them, if they have a free minute or two to go through it.
No, that's fine. Okay. The other thing is too, the chairman of sewer and water, we've got a plan that shows the expansion area, which I had set down with them 10 years ago or more. So I'd like to see that, of course, go over to the chairman, and because we've got a sewer and water meeting the second Tuesday of the month, so that could come up into the November sewer and water meeting, and just to be reviewed. I don't see any from my participation in the commission. I don't see there's a change in it other than it's the expansion possibility, which has been approved to go into the plaza down in Barkhamsted, but
Right.
that was always in the game plan anyways. Anybody else have any other additional people to bail information out to? Okay, the other thing is everybody, I listed on page 2, everybody who had volunteered. And in addition to that, on page 3, Craig is on the top of that, had 10 and 11. And it's not in order, but I put in there, my observation of what I had and what John had reviewed, what Peter had reviewed, and what let's see, Peters is
Jerry.
and then, yeah, in addition, then Jerry had finished with some other things. I think those are all the reviews are pretty straightforward. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to read through those, and if you have some comments on each of those areas, I'd like to, get it out there tonight if we could.
Well, I only got through half, so if I see anything later, I'll just
Yeah, just
send it to
communicate.
everybody or send it to Pam. And
Send it to Pam because we really shouldn't be doing business on the in the email structure. But the one thing that I saw, I mean, a lot of it is boilerplate. Like the the first thing is, let's just go back on the first page about the maps. I had talked to Jen Perga, who is working on the natural resource inventory, and I had talked with Mark Douglas. He had given us an updated listing of all the property that is owned by the town, and I've sent that over to Jen Perga so she can take that into consideration. So Jen is working on that. She's got a proposal that she received with regards to her mapping and so forth, and then I've asked Pam to get a written proposal from another people that she's been working with, so that we can, when we get into the map part of it, we can get that squared away on who we're going to go with. But the sewer service area is going to be reviewed by Sewer and Water, and it may or may not need an update. The state plan, again, and the regional plan, both of those are probably fairly similar as far as what we had before, but we'll look at that. And then watersheds, water resources, wetland soils, bedrocks, geology, surficial materials, soils and slopes. None of that has changed. Future land use in Winsted, we need to get that updated because we've updated our zoning and zoning records. Future land use for Winchester and our, our zoning maps all have to be updated. And the group that I talked with Jen about, they have that information. And then what the group that Pam's working with, they, I'm sure, have the same information. So we'll just see how the dollars are. I think the Jen Perga's group had a $1,500 quote to us. So we'll see what you come up with, Pam, for your group. We had at least 9 of these GIS maps that we undertook to have created by Northwest Conservation District. So those were the full wall size maps. We had 2 sets. I think we've only got 1 set. We had a little problem with Eisenlohr losing them, but whatever. We had another set sent over, and I think they're still in the town hall. So the mapping is there, which has to have a little work on some of the areas, not a lot of it. I'm looking for, if you haven't had a chance to go through what everybody's comments were, and there weren't really extensive changes, but Jerry, yours, I think, from the standpoint of the focus of the document itself, you made a comment about you thought there was a little too much conservation versus development. Can you elaborate on your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, especially with what's happened with the COVID situation, where we have an influx of people who are trying to get away from the cities.
Mm-hmm.
And Winchester and the surrounding towns have become choice locations for those escaping the New York City and whatnot. And so I just thought that we should actually have something that talked about from a development standpoint, where most of the discussion was on conservation, and a lot of, if you see my comment, a lot of shoulds and strategy, but nothing really filled in to represent what the shoulds should be. So I think we could probably streamline a lot of that content. Mm-hmm. And just get some of the verbiage more up to date, because a lot of it has to do with green type things, and that's sort of fallen out of favor, over the years. So I think that section just needs to be tightened up a little bit, and on top of that, talk about, as I have in the open space section here, mm-hmm. This concept of how the towns, especially up in our area, Northwest Hills, we're sort of providing the open space requirement for other towns in the state of Connecticut so that the state can meet its goal of 21% of open space statewide. I know in Norfolk, it's quite high. You know, they have quite have given up most of their open space, or have a lot of their open space applied to meet the state of Connecticut goals. So that limits future development that we may see in the town. So I don't know if I don't know where we stand with our percentage of the total of our state contribution. I'm sure Jen Perga probably has that information or is working on it.
Let me make a note of that because I'm sure she has that, what the open space percentage. Okay, so I'll question that and get that to you, because when we had focused in our, this is over 10 years ago when we did this, we focused our attention on the Route 44 corridor, the Route 8 and Route 800 corridors. And that's what we did with our zoning regulations, gateway and so forth. So we looked at the infrastructure and the opportunities that we would have as a result of that, and figured with the transportation, the quality of the roadways and so forth, those were the most appropriate for, the development. And obviously Route 20, we've got our industrial park that's up there that's nearly full. You've got, we got an approved project that's up by the Santoros for Tony Mangiatori R&M. There's, I think, multi-small lots that are available in that same neck of the woods. You got LaPointe, Don LaPointe has that last corner lot, which is a little bit difficult topography wise. And so that's where the focus was on, on our industrial development. But as far as the wording, and, there's an awful lot of emphasis in the current national campaign about green developments and so forth. So what you're talking about, Jerry, is to actually focus our terminology and the way we define what we're talking about a little more specifically. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And also to be able to provide like a performance aspect to the spaces that are in rural residential, the spots that surround, the downtown area. Just because, as we've seen, there's been a lot of interest now of people who want to be in a rural area.
Sure.
And I think that not necessarily in this section, but the point of cellular capabilities and internet.
No, that's the infrastructure for that is, let me just make a note here.
Because I know up in Winchester Center, it depends on where you are in relation to a boulder as to whether you get cell coverage up there. And that may be never able to be fixed, but
I'm not even that far up, but I've got AT&T, and it depends on which way the wind is blowing, it seems like.
That's right.
I have a problem, and you never know if you're going to have service or not.
Yeah, how are you doing in Winchester Center with the fire department? Do you have anything?
We don't. The only thing you have is around the green, and other than that, you have no cell service.
Well, that's an interesting part of it. We should get a hold of the COG, and I'll draft a letter to Rick Lynn and ask him what they're doing collectively to get us improved.
The only thing that we have going for, and if anybody's heard of FirstNet, which is a division of AT&T, the federal government licensed them for a lot of bandwidth in the 700 to 900 megahertz for cell phone coverage, but they're marketing this priority cell phone coverage for first responders at a discount for fire, police, ambulance. And the government gave them this bandwidth and a ton of money, and they have to have 95+% coverage by 2024. And when I've talked with them, to many of the representatives, and they show us coverage maps, they show us great coverage in Winchester to the point where they've given us phones for 3 weeks to try, and their coverage is no different with those phones than they are with the existing AT&T phones. So their coverage maps are not accurate at this point. By federal regulations and the funding they got, they have to provide the coverage for 95% of the area by
Interesting.
2024. But as of right now, they're only adding 2 more towers in the state of Connecticut, but in the state of Maine, they're building 60 towers. So hopefully within the next 3 years, 4 years, they'll be adding additional towers, but they can't tell us when.
Interesting. But that's, I mean, that's lack of competition is what's driving this as a problem.
Yes.
But, you know, to your point too, Jerry, you know, we see some of the stuff that's come out and some of the political business about the different housing that the feds could basically, like the cell phone, or not cell phone, but the wind towers and so forth, where they could use a siting council and bypass any local approval process with some of this housing that they're talking about going into the rural areas. So we ought to be aware of that, and you know, because what they're talking about is something that's going to drive the infrastructure requirements, so sewer and water and so forth, to feed multiple family housing. And I don't think there's been any conversation that I'm aware of with regards to the legislatures and from our local representatives and so forth. It's just been kind of on the outskirts. But you listen to some of it, and it sounds like some of the national conversation is that's what they're trying to do. If in fact, you know, certain parties get involved and get in power, it's a little, you know, it sneaks up on you when you talk about a windmill and the solar panel. You know, maybe that's not as much of a problem to people, but if they come up with that same framework, they can come up with other ideas that they're all of a sudden going to have, you know, be put into our community, and we won't have a say about it, which I think the local input, you know, is very, very important. So I'm throwing it out. So how do you guys feel about it?
Oh, the windmills, of course, have to go through towns for approvals. Because I know up at the club, they're want to put 3 more towers up, and they have to go through Norfolk and Colebrook.
They situated those towers up there on what's the name of the street up there?
Flag Hill.
Flag Hill.
Flag Hill.
They that was a state siting thing, because
Right,
the town, a lot of people fought that, and it just got plunked in there.
Well, they got 3 more they want to put up.
But that's what I'm saying. They come up through with this, like that Plug Hill thing with that tin can baloney that they put up, and then they went out of business. That was something that we had. They came before us, but basically the siting council was the last word, because they were trying to put something on the waterworks, and they were trying to do something up at the Regional 7 before they collapsed.
Well, I think on the solar, if you have an open lot, if there's open lots and they want to put up, you know, 50, 100 panels, they're going to have to come through us. If it's
No, they don't.
No, it's the siting. That's what's a little scary about this. They come in with this kind of stuff and say it's a need, and then they're subsidizing these installations. And, you know, basically we sit there and just observe it. There's a lot of other things, not a lot of other things, but there's a few other things that have been also put forward that we have no say about. And yet there's a definite impact on the community. I remember Jack Wynn was living up on Spencer Hill, and he had a $500,000 home. And they put a special complex up there next to him, of a long driveway. And he said in the middle of the night, you could hear the garbage trucks backing up with their commercial horns beeping as they went up to pick up trash. And there was nothing that the community could do about it. It was a state siting thing that gave them the opportunity to do it. And I think, you know, these homes and so forth that specifically that was about, they're necessary to be out in the community, but I think there should be some participation to help with the location and the development of the site, like a site plan, like everybody else has to go through, so that we can, protect the rest of the neighborhood values and protections. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to grow. And I don't like that direction. Personally, I don't like that direction. But, we're not going to get anywhere unless we talk to our representatives. And that has to be done in, kind of a group setting. So we talk to the COG, we talk to, and get other people's, because we're all alone on it. We're not going to get anywhere. But I mean, that's my personal feeling. But I don't know how anybody else feels about it.
Well, couldn't the COG coordinate something?
Oh, absolutely. But we got to communicate to them about our concerns.
Right.
What do you think, Will? You're usually involved in these kinds of things. What are your thoughts?
I haven't even, I've heard talk about that and I haven't paid much attention to it. The solar panels, if that's above a certain kilowatt, isn't that where it goes to the siting council, and below that it's planning and zoning? And as far as the housing goes, I haven't had much thought or input into it.
It's been thrown out. It's just, I'm just raising the issue so we start thinking about it, because local control over our community and our neighbors participating, and I think it's important. Not that I don't think there's anybody that we've been involved with wants to exclude classes of folks and stuff, because I'm sure as heck not that way. But I think that just to have somebody sitting in Hartford or sitting in Washington to determine where things are going, I think is a big mistake for our future. And if
They
we
don't
don't catch
know
it
all
in
the communities. Every community's different.
and if we don't catch it in the early stages, it sneaks up on you. So just something to think about. Something we're going to decide on tonight. That was but it's in our POCD's interest to talk about things. And Jerry brought it up with regards to, some of the open space considerations and the green criteria for, how did you say it's green language? Because that was kind of a common thing back 10 years ago about, construction and so forth. So anyways, so here, I threw that out.
So George, before you go on, one of the things that concerns me, especially up here, is when does rural residential stop being rural residential? I think we've seen with what's happened over the past 10 months, people with a bit of land up here, they're actually constructing, they're actually building businesses and other things. So the question is what is really rural residential? Is it like a mini industrial, like a micro industrial park on a person's property? Is it farmland? Is it, we've had a discussion before regarding, livestock and what constitutes, a viable rural residential lot. So I think you're going to be seeing exclude what you get from the state and the federal government. But just here, people are saying, okay, I have a number of acres. How can I use that? And I think our regulations are a little bit loose when it comes to, and I don't want to put too much restriction on this, but just to have an idea, when does rural residential stop being rural residential? We had this conversation back with the short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have a similar issue, especially up here, because you can have, you can actually provide us a micro industrial operation if you want.
Well, you got uses that are not permitted in rural, so I don't see, is that you're observing some of that stuff going on that are not residential in nature?
I'm seeing some things which could lead to, I'm just sort of seeing things for the future, as you were just talking about with these other things. So that's why I just want to take a look at what we mean by rural residential from a performance perspective.
Okay.
And just to be able to be, thinking about that as we move forward.
Can you put some things in writing as far as what, kind of put some framework around what you feel would be more definitive with regards to that?
Okay, because I know a number of other towns, they have different levels, you know, different criteria depending on both acreage and the use.
Mhm.
And you know, they're starting to get a little bit more like they were doing with the short-term rentals, getting a little bit more specific
Mhm.
as to certain size and you know, density requirements, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Just something that we should be looking at, you know, as a potential.
Well, in order to move forward, though, you know, if you can take a little bit of time, Jerry, you've got some thoughts about it. If you can, you know, try to shape that a little bit and
Okay.
bring it back to us, and then we have a point to work from. That's a good observation. We got to, you know, we think sometimes about what we're bumping up against, but there's some other things that are being discussed on the national scene, and I think we better be aware of it. And the only impact we can have on that is to interact with our COG, because what do we have, 20 or 23 communities that are involved, and be proactive with our representatives from the state standpoint, and you know, whoever represents us out here
Right.
in Washington.
The
You know,
COG stands on this, you know, it's the desegregate Connecticut that George is talking about, that Sarah Bronin has been really forging ahead with.
mhm.
And, you know, which can be scary if you like to shape your own development in town. You know, it's opportunistic, I think, you know, to, you know, but it's worthy of reviewing her site. It's called Desegregate Connecticut, and where they're pushing for quick, broad reforms to exactly what George is talking about taking, really taking away local control, you know, so that, you know, where a zone like rural residential is our most restrictive zone, but by design, you know, it's not an accident that you're trying to preserve the rural nature of pockets of town, and you know, you have a very clear idea of where you'd like to see your development, and where there are opportunities for affordable housing.
Mhm.
And you know, that might alter that if it were to be passed.
Well, that's why early on, when we start hearing some of these things, we don't think it's going to affect us, but they
But
potentially
I think you'll
could.
be interested in listening with the
I
COG,
will.
because
I'll
the
look at
COG
that.
has been pushing for Salisbury, you know, for some of these very rural towns to have, you know, there's definitely varying thoughts and perspectives, even from, you know, our own COG.
Yeah, but I mean, see, we're up almost 12% with affordable housing here. But the point is, when you start doing affordable housing, you've got to have an infrastructure that's going to support that. And what they're talking about is the intervention into rural areas that are on septic systems and wells. And if you're going to support a multifamily development, you're going to start expanding your infrastructure. And they like to talk in generalities about the theoretical framework of you know, a better balance of the population, but there's an awful lot of issues that have to be dealt with when you're starting to do that, and that's why the inner city and our downtown center area is more conducive to supporting, you know, people don't have cars necessarily, that have walking. That's why we need to try to get you know, the grocery store back downtown again, so that we can support what the city center, if you will, and I mean, it's in small terms, but that's what we need. But we sure as hell, the interest in our community has been not, and I'm not talking about from a segregationist situation, but it's been the beauty of the conserved areas that give us the beauty of the natural, you know, Northwest Hills stuff. And that's why people are attracted here. So we start trying to artificially input development that doesn't fit. And I'm not saying fit because of race or anything. I'm talking about the congestion. I mean, when we do a multifamily building project, we as a commission look at all the aspects of traffic flow and, infrastructure, sewer, water, what your fuel source is going to be. All of that has to be considered. And these people in a lot of the legislatures seem like they're talking about some big picture, but they don't think in terms of the nuts and bolts of what's necessary to make something like that work. So I think it's just behooves us not to be frightened of it, but to be involved in communicating our thoughts about it to the people who are going to be making decisions, and not be reacting, but be proactive. And that's why I think that we, get a little more involved with the COG through our town manager and whatever other vehicle we can use here. At least that's my thought anyways, because you're not talking about just infrastructure. You're talking about ambulance, you're talking about fire protection, education, all of these aspects that have a direct component here, contribution to what we do with our school systems, how the size of the school is, and so on and so forth. It's not a simple subject matter. So anyways, I just wanted to bring it up, and Jerry, you fired me off on it because of your concerns in regards to the rural.
You
But
started all this, Jerry.
Yeah, stirred the pot a little.
No, Jerry, you got it good. You stirred the pot a little bit. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'd like to do, if Pam has the opportunity to be able to send these letters out, and if everybody can take a look at what the comments were. Craig, I talked to him today when he came out of UConn Medical Center. He didn't put anything in writing, but he did tell me what his reaction was to the sections he was looking at. I'll have him follow up on that. And we've got maps that are, going to have to be reviewed. But again, I'm working with Jen and with Pam. So we'll take care of that. But again, anybody that's got any ideas, fire it back through Pam so that we're not trying to communicate without having a meeting and an agenda. And then we can get the information out to everybody just so we can start working on this. I'd like to bring this to get as close as we can to, a renewal time, because this thing actually, January of 2021 is 10 years. But because of this virus, I'm sure we've got latitude. But I'd like not to, I don't think we've got any major issues here. I think that we should try to get this done. And if we have some weaker areas here, then we could take it up when we have a little more time at the beginning of next year and focus on those aspects of it. Because again, any modification still requires a public hearing, which is easy to set up. And but then we can have a contemporary document that we can actually, reference when we're making our decisions on our special permits and our site plan approval. Site plan approvals, not, it's pretty much can, but the special permits especially. And then we're really in a good position with this commission. So any more comments with regards to what I sent out and what other ideas that might have triggered?
No, the short-term rentals, George.
Yeah.
I mean, spring is not that far away.
That's what I said the other day. I get my snow blower out. They said, no, spring is coming. Spring is coming.
Right after you see snow Friday.
Yeah, is that what you predicted?
Friday.
Another Halloween snowstorm.
Well, you see that out in Minnesota, and I mean, boy, they've been hit already. The short-term rental, and one of the things when it's on the agenda is postponed, but well, let's finish up POCD. We all set with that?
Yep.
So we got some homework to do if we can move that along. The short-term rental, it's funny because I brought up some stuff from when I was doing work in Rockland, and it was pretty involved. And they've got a whole different situation than we do here. But I had my house up in the Adirondacks outside of Lake Placid, and they did institute a short-term rental program, and it's in place. when we do have a meeting on it, I'll show you what it is. It's pretty, actually pretty expensive. And they have an awful lot of, a huge amount of rentals that are going on that have been a lot different in as far as more ingrained. We've got a lot of it here at Highland Lake, but it's, kind of a small, I think a small percentage. We're up there.
The
it's really-
Laker Shores.
Yeah, they're really got some heavy duty stuff going on, and they've hit it pretty hard. But I've got the paperwork on what they've done, and I can scan it in and send it to everybody, so you got at least something to think about with regards to what somebody else has done. Because we have to deal with it, because it's going to be, I think, more prevalent here in the upcoming years with regards to our recreational water facilities and so forth. People are going to want to be here. So let me do that, and if anybody else has any information, we could send it into Pam and she can make a distribution. And then when we hopefully we'll be able to start, I don't know, with the uptick in this virus thing, hopefully we'll be able to get back together in person, because those are good discussions to have and sit down with the public and be able to hash some of these things out, discuss different options.
Didn't you, Jerry, go through some stuff?
Yeah, we've submitted it back. Now it's almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I think we need to revisit that and just have another meeting just to sort of get our heads back into it.
Mhm. Yeah, because there was a lot of other issues that you brought up too, Jerry, as far as, out in the country, not just on the water, the rentals that could be possibly showing up. So it's definitely something we need to be prepared for.
If you're eager to get going on it, I mean, I know we were going to try to wait until we meet in person, but I think we're going to be meeting this way for a while.
Well, and thank you, Pam, because you put these things together. We had our sewer and water meeting the other night, and it was talking about to Lori, because we were talking about doing some things, and she said, I know nothing. Of course, she's retiring, so she said, you're the in-house expert on setting these things up, and you've done a very good job on putting all the material in, so we got references and so forth. But well, let me send the stuff that I have, and Jerry, if you can resurface the information you had and your concerns, and then let's bring that. We've got a public hearing set up for the November 9th.
Right.
I'd like to see if we can move our POCD information along, see where we are on that evening as well, and go from there. How's that sound to everybody?
No, that sounds good.
Okay. Any more comments from anybody? Peter?
No, I think that sounds good.
Okay. Will?
No, it's good with me.
Hey, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay, John?
Agreed.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to adjourn?
George, one thing,
Yes.
our zoning enforcement officer's gone for 3 months. Any idea what's going to be done for zoning enforcement?
Yeah. I see a big smile. What's that mean? Do we have anybody online that we could hire as a per diem type of?
No,
zoning?
I'm signing off on zoning permits.
You are, but as
Yeah.
far as zoning enforcement,
Enforcement, I could do that too.
well, we've kind of tacked that badge on you.
Yeah. So if you see something, say something.
Okay. No, I know you had discussion with the town manager, George, a month or two ago, and regarding that, and now that we have no zoning enforcement officer per se for 3 months, just make everybody aware of it. So,
Well,
I don't
Peter,
think he's gonna be out that long. Like, he could be out that long, but
well, let
yeah.
me talk to Bob on behalf of the commission if everybody's happy with that. and just get some definition of what's going on with it. And I've said this to Bob before. If we don't have zoning enforcement, what's the point in all the land use boards? I mean, we're
Well,
wasting our time.
Bring it up. I mean, you're talking about the short-term rentals and things like that
Yep.
because of
Yep.
enforcement issues and inspection issues and everything else. And unless we get town officials on board with it, we're kind of spinning our wheels and wasting a whole lot of time if there's going to be no enforcement, no inspection issues to go along with that.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
What happened with all the stuff that was supposed to be enforced months ago? Did they get letters, Pam?
We've got stuff that hasn't been enforced for a year that's still sitting here.
Well, I know, nothing's been done about it.
Well, there's issues with us and there's issues with wetlands and, you know, those are, and I've said it, I've had many meetings with Bob about it and I'm not sure where it's going, but let me revisit it with him and then I'll report back to everybody about what has taken place. I just talked to somebody the other day who I met for the first time, and they're doing per inspection zoning enforcement. So they're not, you know, on the payroll, so to speak. They're on a per inspection payment plan. So I don't know if that works or not, depending on, but they're certified enforcement people, or he is. So but let me bring it up to Bob and see what can be done, because it doesn't hurt to share, you know, an enforcement person if they're all, which they have to be qualified to do this work. So Peter, thank you for bringing that up. I'll get a hold of Bob and
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second? No, I guess we ought to continue.
Yeah,
Having a good time.
Okay, Art seconded. Any other comments with regards to that? All in favor? Just raise your hand. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody's participation. Okay, good night.
night all.